Hello and welcome to the business of what's next. I'm your host, Matthew Ship, and today I'm here with Jake Truemper, founder of Shift. This show explores how ambitious leaders cut through the noise and decide what matters and sets up their business for what's next. Jake, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So let us know quickly, a little bit about yourself. Obviously, we've worked together, so we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But let us know what Shift is and Shift does. I think this is going to be unique for listeners because of what the service you offer.
Sure. Shift is a human-centered consultancy. When most people think human-centered, they tend to think in the digital user experience realm, which is 100% something that we do, but we differentiate a little bit as well in that we kind of go a bit wider into broader services, looking at every touch point that a customer may experience, your workforce may experience, and the kind of middle management or middlemen may experience as well. We also kind of push upward into the strategic space to try and define where companies should go and not necessarily thinking about how to get there. And then finally, over the course of our 8 years of business, we've had a lot of our clients start wanting us to help scale up their internal teams. So we've been developing a lot of training and coaching programs to help build up strategic skills and human-centered skills within organizations.
All right. And we'll get into that coaching program here shortly. But let's know first, like, how did Shift come along? What made you pivot into creating Shift?
Sure. So my business partner and I had worked at a prior company together where we were both the two practice leads. So he was the lead over business design. I was the lead over experience design. And that company that we were at, we worked there 2 or 3 years together. The company was acquired, and as often happens with acquisitions, the leadership can butt heads and things happen that it just doesn't work out culturally or
Hmm.
otherwise. And then ultimately that company was sort of liquidated, the one that I was from. And so we were looking at the methodology that we had, started noodling through and really felt like there was a lot of potential to apply it in the space, even though our company had gone away. So we decided to do it for ourselves. So Keith is my business partner's name. He and I built Shift. And we've been going, like I said, for about 8 years now. And it's been a good ride.
That was good. So what specifically did you pick up on with your methodology that you saw that you could really change from what you were doing from your old business to what Shift is offering? And what did you see like leaders and businesses really needing you?
Well, we know that the highest skill need in the industry across all industries really has been indicated to be critical and strategic thinking.
Hmm.
So that's really where we try and make the most difference. So even when we are working on a downstream delivery of a product, we're looking to kind of align it to strategic goals and still apply critical thinking in the delivery of that product. So it's really meeting human needs. And then, of course, when we're upstream, it's pure strategy, figuring out where you should focus your energies. I may have walked off the question there. I kind of think I
And that was right.
covered some of it.
Actually, you touched really well on kind of what I help do is that the further upstream those big decisions, where businesses are looking up, going, okay, what's next? We have lots of ideas. Yeah, and the more time you spend at the water cooler, the more money and time you're wasting with your people. Do you find I find really for myself that getting the team leadership in working together and kind of facilitating that really gets them where they need to be much faster. Have you found that as the same thing?
Yeah, 100%. That's a lot of, we don't sell it this way, but a lot of
Mhm.
our delivery ends up being around creating alignment. So
Mhm.
building alignment within the leadership, but also in connection with what customers need helps drive people forward with a clear vision on where they want to go.
Yeah, when people ask me, I'll say, "Oh, so you do team leadership?" I'm like, "No, that's kinda like the bonus." It is a cultural benefit they get from being able to
Right.
do this because the buy-in, all these other things, but yeah, don't usually don't sell it that way, but that is the side bonus that they get, from doing the kind of work that you do. Alright, so what in your experience, what's the most common point where leaders tend to get stuck in when making those decisions?
There's a lot of kind of sticking points. I think the one that I see most often is that there's a overwhelming desire to dive too quickly into solutioning.
Mhm.
Um, we like to use a quote that's attributed to Einstein that if I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes framing the problem and
Mhm.
5 minutes solving it. Um, I think the way that leadership typically works is in the exact reverse, just a tiny bit of framing and then just dive right in. Also providing too much specification early and saying that this is what we want to go to. We need an app or an AI solution here. And really you should be backing up and thinking about problems and opportunities before you start thinking about the tools and methods that you're going to use to solve those.
Yeah, that's really I've noticed that too, even when I don't intentionally set out to do that for clients, is I'll do some sort of clarity or discovery, and they'll come back with me a couple weeks later and go, "Matt, we decided we actually realized because of this, we're going in the wrong direction. We'd like to try this." So
Mhm.
it is a you're very right. Yeah, just jumping straight onto the solution and thinking you know what you want. That's kind of the point of taking those decisions that you need to make and really clarifying them down. And actually, you're really good with that. You want to speak about how people can take all their ideas and start clarifying what's most important to them.
You mean in terms of innovation, new ideas?
Yeah. New ideas or strategic decisions.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I think for me, personally, I'm a very visual person. And I think that in general, people learn best through visuals. So I think the best thing you can do is start to visualize everyone's thinking and create alignment that way, first of all, because a lot of times people will say things that they think they all agree on.
Mhm.
And it turns out in their heads that it's completely different. And so putting it on the surface of something on a whiteboard, on a virtual digital whiteboard or a prototype or whatever it is, it gets it out there so that people can react to it and say, oh, you know what? That's not really what I was thinking. Um,
Mhm.
so absolutely making things visible. I'll do that through things like storyboarding, friction mapping, a lot of different visual models and frameworks that we have. And we've created a bunch of our own templates as well that we use and kind of offer to our clients.
Mhm. So, what makes your particular approach? You said you kind of expanded it. What makes it unique, and what do businesses see that they're going to get from you because it's so unique?
Sure. I think the unique aspects are the two things that I mentioned earlier that we go wider and look at
Mhm.
services, which I think even if you're a CTO and you're looking at a specific product, digital product, you still should probably do a little bit of service design so that you
Mhm.
understand the context of need. Because a lot of times I see companies go in and say, hey, we need an app, for example, and then that app gets just jam packed with all kinds of features, but it's not provided in the context of the real need.
Mhm.
Where if something smaller were to be designed in context of the need, it would solve the problems a lot better. And in the training we've done in the past, we like to have people go in and kind of run sort of an experiment and then decide the angle that they want to take. And sometimes they say trading, sometimes they say, I want to build an app, sometimes they say, I want to redesign the physical environment or design the whole service.
Mhm.
And the more myopic you get into, I want to make an app or a product of some sort, the more you over design it and the less you keep to the true needs of customers, I find anyway.
Okay.
So good to branch out, widen out. And then the other one was moving upstream. So thinking about the strategy in terms of where are your opportunities, whether that's from a problem or whether it's from a strength,
Mhm.
uh, diving in on the areas that are going to have the biggest impact for you and for your customers.
All right. And you mentioned a few terms. I want to make sure 'cause a lot of I'm hoping my audience is business owners,
Sure.
mid-stage business owners. A couple terms that may not heard is that are maybe common in some places, but I've found that I could lose people in terminology a lot. Can you describe service design? I think it's really important for people to understand this.
Yeah. So service design has a couple main concepts. One is touch points. So it's every touch point that a customer would have, whether that's digital, whether it's a physical environment or building, whether it's a product that's a physical product, a human interaction or service, processes that underlie the whole thing. That's one of the main concepts is those variety of touch points, data as well. And then the other would be front to backstage, which means front stage being everything that a customer can see and interacts with. Think of being on stage in a play. You are interacting if you're in a financial services space, you may be looking at a financial advisor and a customer being on the front stage. Then on the backstage, there's all the individuals that are creating that experience behind the scenes. And then there's a middle ground where there's kind of the middlemen, the partners, vendors that you might have in between that you need to also consider that experience to make a kind of smooth, broad service.
All right. And I had the pleasure of working with Jake on a bigger project that really utilized service design in his unique way. We can talk about that a little bit. I think there was a lot of transformation, and I learned a lot myself. We worked with a company you might have heard of, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and we were kind of remapping or reimagining their service from the ground up. Really, would you like to mention a little more about that and what we did and how we took them forward?
Yeah, sure. So we, prior to working with you, Matt, we had done a project for Blue out of Kansas City. So that one was really about reinventing healthcare, and Blue is an insurance company. So they were kind of looking at the regulations and things that were coming down at the time and realizing it would be harder and harder to be profitable without making some kind of change. So we went in with the idea that you could reinvent healthcare and just big picture, blue sky, figure out if you really can.
Mhm.
Um, Went through that initiative. It succeeded quite well. And because of that, we got an initiative with Blue Arizona. And so we went in and didn't just copy paste to the experience that we had created for Kansas City, because it's a totally different market, totally different challenges. Arizona's much more diversified populations where people don't necessarily have easy access to health locations. Um, so we had to take all of that in mind. We came up with 800 some hypotheses for how we might reinvent healthcare. We went through a variety of sprints to prototype and test out those hypotheses. Those were everything from people interactions, physical environments, all of the touch points included, narrowed down to the best ones, modified the ones that had some potential, came up with a end-to-end experience that uh, kind of took the best from the Kansas City experience, but also added the new experiences and changed things up to fit the Arizona market. And I believe that is now called Prosano Health, I think
Mm.
is what you can find it as.
Okay.
So it's in market now, doing its thing.
That's great. So, yeah, that was a great experience just seeing I really like the idea behind not just doing one single service design map, but sprint after sprint of that building on each piece. We kinda, like, built each stage as we went through, and that was a really neat way to doing it, really but, yeah, so you can obviously handle really big projects with this as well as very
Mhm.
small projects. I applied something very simple to a coffee shop, and what we ended up doing is mapping all I just visually mapped everything out that was happening, all the touch points, and I just had each a barista come in and say, "Yeah, this is what we do. No, this isn't what we do," and then you started noticing red flags. So it was more like a service design audit,
Mhm.
and we really were able to they were able to reduce duplication of effort and even just kind of fix some common sense things like maybe we shouldn't have the trash can on the left hand side of the aisle because people keep on tripping over it. Nobody's doing anything about it, but we all mentioned it. So let's let's switch it. Just little things, and even some bigger projects down the line is like they started remapping the way they move around the barista bar and stuff. And we
Yeah.
spun off another workshop off of that, and they ended up remapping the whole thing. And that was a lot of fun. So yeah, so it can be used for large scale, small scale creation and audits. Feeling stuck as a leader or sense you're out of alignment even though you're pushing forward, you're not alone. Seek Coaching helps leaders cut through the noise and reconnect with their authentic voice. Founder Stephanie Seek uses her 5 V's methodology to help you clarify what matters, reframe limiting beliefs, and bring your inner and outer voice back into alignment. With Seek Coaching, you create the space for clarity, confidence, and a path that actually feels right. Visit seekcoaching.com to take your next intentional step toward balance and purpose. Seek Coaching. Alignment is the new success. You've taken all this knowledge and kind of is starting to condense it into a coaching program. And would you like to talk about, what this coaching program, who's it for, and how you see people using it?
Yeah. So I've seen a lot in on LinkedIn and various places where practitioners and even some kind of mid-level leaders have complained about not having a seat at the strategy table and kind of being more just a delivery screen monkey or whatever in your particular design world it is.
Mhm.
And so we kind of saw that. We've done a lot of coaching over the course of the years, and as I've mentioned, that clients have started looking at us for us to scale up their internal teams. So we started putting down our methodology in a program that has live coaching sessions as well as a video portal community for people to be able to interact with each other, as well as a large pool of templates that we use in our business. Some are custom, some are kind of your standard business model, canvas type things and whatnot. And so that program is three main modules: opportunity, which is really your human centered strategy, that a strategic decision of where to go; solution, which is a lot more focused on how you solve a problem once you've defined what that problem is; more design thinking and service design; and then activation, which is a lot more how do you get it into the market successfully. So things like piloting and doing, things to make sure from the very beginning in the upstream, you're enabling the downstream. So those three are going to be the modules that we sell. Right now, we're mostly through the very first one, and we hope to have that live in the new year. So the opportunity one.
Hmm.
And yeah, we'll be hopefully rolling that out for both businesses as well as direct to individuals, those individuals being practitioners or middle managers who would like to become more strategic in their work.
Would somebody want to use this for building a product or realigning their team strategies? What's it most beneficial for?
It's really about personal development, becoming getting the skills and tools and process to prove your strategic capability to drive the business into better and better places. The digital product, it can be applied to really any aspect
Hmm.
of delivery. So it's not necessarily digital, physical. You could be an architect and this
Yeah.
would work for you. Um, but the first module is really about that upfront strategy.
Okay. So yeah, this definitely fits for, you're looking at your business and you're trying to decide again what's next. And you want to bring your team on and have them become a really strong strategic thinking base instead of just it all being on the CEO. This would be a strong program for them to run through.
Yeah, and we also know with the changes that AI is creating, a lot of the tactical behaviors that you're able to traditionally would have done are being taken over by AI.
Hmm.
So strategic skills are becoming increasingly in demand and will continue to be. So it's kind of a career safety net as well to kind of keep yourself relevant as the technology around us changes.
That's good to know. So, what if you had, say, in your coaching program, what's one of your favorite tools, and you find because it's been very effective when you've used it with clients?
I think the friction map that we kind of
Okay.
custom created is our favorite tool. So that one is really the combination of a service blueprint and a journey map to look at front to backstage, but
Mhm.
breaks segments of experience down by the friction that individuals are having uh, in that experience. And then we can target in based on friction score as to where companies need to focus the most. A really good example of that was for an agriculture company that we looked at the way that they had spent their money over the past, I think it was 5 years, may have been further back, based on the journey of a farmer, essentially. And so we looked at that and we found out that the highest friction areas, they had never spent any money on solving. They had spent all their money on solving the basically checkout process. Uh, and we found that that had a very low friction score, so a very green.
Mhm.
So we were able to help them say, let's kill all these future initiatives that were going to that green area and start some up in that red area and really differentiate in a place that other people aren't, some blue ocean innovation.
Okay. What was the outcome for them?
They moved something like $14.5 million away from those places that weren't going to make very big change to places that were, and then set up um, kind of a roadmap for how to start spinning those initiatives up.
Oh, wow, that's real important for anybody to hear. That's awesome. Okay. So, and finally, now you just mentioned AI and winds of change here. So, what trends are you seeing that leaders aren't preparing for but should be?
Trends that leaders aren't preparing for, I think, is probably using AI in more human-centered design approaches.
Mhm.
I think right now with, the MIT study that came out that said 95% of AI initiatives have failed. And I think there's a McKinsey study, or I think it was McKinsey anyway, saying that companies have seen zero ROI return on their investments in AI. And
Mhm.
I think the reason why that is because it was treated as a kind of check mark that, oh, someone else has started doing this AI thing to stay competitive. We need to dive in and get that out there
Yeah.
as fast as possible. So they're delivering AI solutions without really thinking about the context of need,
Mhm.
the user experience. It's probably being over designed because it's being designed in a pocket in a way that they saw other people do. So I think service design specifically is going to become more important in learning how to apply AI more appropriately so that it does succeed in the market.
Okay. And then also finally here, what we've talked about your coaching program, but is there anything that's next for Shift?
Yeah, we're working on that coaching program. That's primarily what we're doing at the moment. We are focusing a little bit more on AI and that service design experience. So that's going to be something you'll may see more content come out from us around. Uh, I think we're probably going to try and add some more physical bodies into the office to be able to branch out pretty soon. We'll
Mhm.
see how that goes though. But yeah, we're just doing our thing. Year 8,
Mhm.
looking forward to year 9.
So if anybody wants to find out any information about Shift or about your coaching program, where can they find you, or do you have anything coming up?
Yeah, you can find us at shiftstl.com. I don't have any presentations or anything coming up. I just finished a couple of St. Louis Design Week and
Mhm.
whatnot. But you can also find me on LinkedIn. Just search my name and feel free to connect. I'm always happy to connect on LinkedIn.
All right. Jake, thanks for coming on the Business What's Next. I think this is going to be a great episode for people when getting a little more even with the human centered and analytical. I think those work together so well instead of being one or the other. I think a lot of people are just going by data and saying making decisions just based on the raw data and taking the creativity out of decision making. And I think service design and what we both do puts that back in and
Yeah.
really pulls on the best their business has to offer. So again, check out Jake at was it shiftstl.com
Yep.
and check out his coaching program. Check out what he's worked on too. If this seems like it's really talking to you as a leader in your business, if you're deciding what's next to do, reach out. All right, again, Jake, thanks a lot.
Yep. Thanks for having me.